Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It. I'm your host, and I'd like to welcome you to the show and tell you what this show is about. This show is about creating a successful life and what that means to my guest today, musician, author, and keynote speaker, Mark Schulman. I'd like to share my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with focus, integrity, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. Let me tell you about my guest today. Mark Schulman has enjoyed an unprecedented career over the last 30 years as a first-call drummer for world-class rock and pop artists. As a celebrity speaker, Mark provides 3 simple concepts to boost attitude and performance through his compelling stories about working with artists like Pink, Billy Idol, and Cher, and his high-energy drumming performances with audience interaction. To date, Mark has performed over 1,500 music seminars and public speaking gigs and has performed for over 1 billion people in his career. Mark has played drums on 4 record-breaking world tours with Pink from 2006 to 2019. His music resume reads like a who's who of rock and roll royalty, including acts such as Cher, Billy Idol, Foreigner, Sheryl Crow, Stevie Nicks, Beyoncé, and countless world-class artists. He has drummed with VELVET REVOLVER at Ozzfest and for a crowd of 225,000 at Glastonbury Festival with Simple Minds. Mark has appeared on nearly every American, European, and Australian variety talk show, including the Grammys, David Letterman, The Tonight Show, Conan O'Brian, Jon Stewart, American Idol, O Grady, and X Factor. As an author, his first book, Conquering Life's Stage Fright, shows people in all industries how to harness doubt, fear, and anxiety as it relates to any performance or presentation, and transforms that into clarity, capability, and confidence. As a cancer survivor, Mark has motivated children and teens through his work with the Ronald McDonald House and Teenage Cancer Trust in the UK. I'm so happy to welcome my guest today, Mark Schulman. Hi, Mark.
Terry, wow. That was a lot. Thank you so much. What a great intro.
Oh, my pleasure. It is a lot. And that's the short version of your story. And we're going to dive deep today to talk about you as an artist, as a drummer, as a motivational speaker, as an author, as a dad, as a survivor and a thriver, not just a survivor. But I really want for people to get to know you today. So we're going to talk a lot about your intention and what propels you through life, and of course, music. But people can easily find out your music credits by going to your website and all that. We'll get into that because that could be 3 hours alone on just your performing experience. But I want to start with a quote of yours, and then a few quotes from other people about you and your motivational speaking, and then we'll just dive in. This is something that you said. We know we cannot control what happens to us, but it's the grace with which we recover from disruption, from challenges, from life-threatening situations, and an unyielding desire in spite of these challenges. That's a powerful and beautiful statement, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, I know that it's propelled, or it's inspired by being a cancer survivor of over 27 years, I believe. But you were that way. You were born that way, I think. I mean, you've been that way as long as I've known you. And that certainly, I think, illuminated and inspired you to really follow through with that. That's sort of, that's your mission statement, I think, your life purpose. And so can you talk about that for a moment? And then I want to share a few other quotes about you from other people.
Well, I definitely believe that we come into this life with certain propensities, certain proclivities. I was born a drummer. I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I was 2 years old. I saw John, Paul, and George. I saw Ringo. I said, ah! Then I saw the screaming girls, and I said, I want that. And I was bugging my mom for as many years as I can remember. Mom, I just want to play drums. They're too loud. Can't you play a nice instrument like your brother Randy? He plays violin. So I used to go to my brother Randy's violin lessons. He was taught by my godfather, my Uncle Ben, and then I saw what looked like a big violin in the corner, and it was a cello. And I said, I'll play that. So I grew up playing cello. And actually, it refined my ear, and I ended up being in the LA Junior Philharmonic. I even played cello on stage with Pink on one of the tours.
I saw that. It was awesome.
You do, thank you. Everything you do leads to everything else. But at 9 years old, my parents couldn't deny my passion any longer and got me my first drum set, and there was no turning back. So, they said, you have a high IQ, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. I didn't make it through 2 years of college without so much anxiety, realizing that the only thing that I was cut out to do in this life was to be a drummer. Mm-hmm. And it was just up to me to do the work, to communicate, because communication has so much to do with your success, because you can't just sit in your bedroom and play. You could be, Vinnie Colaiuta times 3 sitting in your bedroom and nobody knows about you and it doesn't matter, right? So True. I knew that the communication was a very, very important part of it. And so I quit college after 2 years and just started playing top 40. By the time I was 26, I got my first road gig. I was recommended. I had tutored Armin Grimaldi, one of the great drummers at the time, was a good buddy of mine. I tutored him in English in college, for God's sakes. My dad was an English professor. My mom ran the tutorial center, and we played drums together. I left town. I came back into town. I was friends with Mark Brown, the bass player, who was a good friend. I became friends with Mark, who was a good friend of Armin's. And Mark started talking about it. He was like, oh, Mark's back in town. He's like, I just got called to do a tour with Brenda Russell, and I can't do it. I'm going to recommend Mark. And I'll be damned. Went down, played with Brenda Russell, played with the band, and I got hired. Mm-hmm. And that ended up being my first road gig. And
what a great artist to start with, right?
Oh, she's still a friend of mine. She's so marvelous. She wrote all the music for The Color Purple on Broadway. What an amazing woman, an amazing writer. And my mother, my Jewish mother was still like, you should, up till I was 45 years old, you need to get a teaching credential. You need something to fall back on. I'm like, Ma, first of all, listen to the words you're saying, because the words you're saying matter. Fall back on. That literally means you're falling backwards. Why would I want to fall backwards when I can propel forwards? And that's what I do. So I continued on the path. And I was just fortunate enough, so many circumstances, so many stories that brought me to the success that I have. And I'm so grateful for the people that I've met, the people that have supported me, the people that I love. I have so much gratitude. I ooze with gratitude every morning. It's one of my practices before I meditate. It's just thinking of at least 3 people and 3 things that bring me gratitude. I talk about that by speech. But I realized at a point I probably did 1,000 drum clinics, where I'd be playing for drummers in music stores and schools and colleges. And I loved it. I realized, okay, I inherited my parents' teaching propensity. I inherited that talent, that gift. But then I thought, a good friend of mine, Dom Famularo, who's an amazing drummer, said he's very, very motivational. He was doing a drum clinic. And he said, a guy comes up to him with his little 6-year-old kid, said, I brought my kid to your drum clinic, but I have a corporation. I'd love for you to come and speak at my corporation. Just do what you do. It's so motivating. He said, I was thinking in my head, I could probably pay you $7,000. Now we're making $500. Dom's like, okay. So he went and did it. It was very successful. And I never always thought about that in the back of my head, that I can do that. And at a point I thought, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to take the basic format of doing drum clinics, which is essentially playing drums, telling stories that have some sort of moral or some sort of takeaway, and entertaining and inspiring people. And so then I started doing some colleges, and then I started dabbling into a few small corporations. And then I built a business. And I studied with 2 speaking coaches, an acting coach, a director, a storyteller. I refined what I was doing to make it relevant and relative to the corporate market, because I thought I could have a lot of fun doing this.
Right.
And I could add a couple more zeros to my paycheck if I do it. So I really built the business over the last 15 years to the point where, honestly, I left the Pink Band last year because I'm doing so well with my speaking business, speaking to like Fortune 500 companies. I thought it's a deeper sense of purpose for me because I still play drums. I'm a drummer. That's my foundation. So when I demonstrate using drums, but I'm just relating it back to the corporate audience, and I'm making everybody else feel like rock stars. It's called hacking the rock star attitude. So what I'm doing is I'm relating it back to them. So it's not just about, hey, look how cool Mark is. It's like, how cool does Mark make me feel?
Right.
That's the key in any relationship. How do you make others feel? I don't care whether you're on stage playing music, whether you're having a conversation, whatever it is. What is it that you can do to enhance somebody else's life? Because what you mentioned earlier, you said, what is it that drives me? At a point, I realized that everything I do is to be of service. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Think about it. When you're on stage playing, you are there to provide a service. You're there to be of service. You're there to lift people, to take people out of their regular lives, to take them on a fantasy, to let the music carry them away. That's being of service. If I'm teaching, if I'm doing a drum clinic, I'm teaching. If I'm talking about a specific rudiment, I am there to be of service to show them. If I'm talking to a group of corporate executives, I'm there to be of service to share my experience and how that can relate back to them, to give them content that can make them feel more like they've got the rock and roll swagger, to give them more confidence. So if you wake up or if you approach everything you do from the position of being of service, mm-hmm. you will feel more fulfilled, and the people around you will definitely get more fulfillment from the experience of you. So that's kind of my mantra, if you will.
Bravo to all of that. There's so many things to talk about here. Let me just let's take a quick left and just talk about your bringing up as a drummer. So when your parents finally succumbed to your driving passion to play the drums, because that they knew, and again, you played cello your whole life, and you still do, and you've performed.
Well, I know I don't. I would never insult cellists by saying I still play cello, because cello, you need to play that instrument at least 2 hours a day to be able to get the right intonation and even a good tone out of it. So if I'm not doing that, I'm not an active cellist.
Okay. I stand corrected.
It's okay. I just wanted to clarify that for all the cello players out there.
Oh, absolutely.
How much I respect you all.
We know some great ones. We absolutely
do. We played with some great ones.
Yeah. So what was your training like as a young kid? Did your parents give you the best of the best drum teachers? Did you?
Oh, God, no. They didn't know what to do with me.
Here.
Well, I mean, the thing is, all they did was get me a drum set.
Okay.
And that's all I needed, because I could already read music because I played cello.
Yes.
So I needed the drum set so I could just play and refine my craft. Then I started taking local lessons from local instructors. J.B. Wilson, when I was 10 or 11 years old on Ventura Boulevard, where I grew up. And then I studied with Henry Belson, who was Louis Belson's brother, at Music Stop, where I ended up teaching when I was 19.
Sure.
And then a dear friend of mine, Bruce Becker. Oh my God, it was Bruce's birthday. I got to call him. Bruce Becker, the greatest teacher on the planet, because Bruce studied with who was the greatest teacher on the planet, Freddie Gruber, who studied Neil Peart, Steve Smith, Joey Heredia, Johnny Guerin, Dave Weckl, like some of the greatest drummers studied with Freddie. So Bruce, when I was 17, he was already studying with Freddie, and he turned me on to Freddie. So that's when things started getting serious, because I started really refining and understanding the difference in technique.
Right.
And so I grew that. I continued to study with Freddie. I just always played in bands and always had a recording setup. So I always knew how to record my bands. Right. So I always had that wherewithal as well, like the understanding of the aggregate of what does the band need, not just the drummer. And that's very, very important. So from the production standpoint, the recording standpoint, I had that background. And that continued. And when I was 21 years old, I got a job as a second engineer at Total Experience Recording Studio, an all R&B recording studio with the Gap Band and Yarborough and Peoples. And I was a second engineer, and I worked my way up, and I had taken classes. So I only took private drum classes. I took engineering courses at, remember Dick Grove?
I do. Yeah.
And then I moved to Portland, Oregon with my original band because we were told you could make money playing original music. And we did. And then the band broke up. And then I met Dan Reed of Dan Reed Network, and he helped me put another band together. And then I met the man who's literally the mentor of my life, who co-wrote my upcoming book, Dr. Jim Samuels. He's been my life coach for 35 years.
Wow.
Stopped doing drugs, stopped drinking for 17 years, just got really serious. And then at 26 is when I moved back, and that's when I met Mark Brown, then the Armand Grimaldi connection, and the rest is history. But when my parents got me the drum set, I started playing in a band immediately at 9. At 12, I did my first professional gig, and every single weekend I was playing bar mitzvahs, weddings, proms, dressing up in tuxedos, making $150 to $200 a gig.
That's amazing.
All my friends were delivering pizzas.
Right.
So I just always played. And it was the experience of playing with other musicians that I think gave me the refinement that I needed, along with, listening and trying to get every chop, and Buddy Rich and Jeff Porcaro and Steve Gadd and Tony Williams, and then Vinny, and then Terry Bozzio, and all the people that just influenced me to no end. But playing in the bands is where I really learned the craft of what it takes to be a musician, as opposed to being simply a great drummer.
Exactly. Yeah, we share that perspective and point of view. I felt like when I think
every great musician does.
Yeah, you're
most
right.
Most of the people you talk to, they say, "Oh yeah, I've been playing in bands my whole life," or "I've been playing." They have so much experience in the community,
right?
Because that's what shows them how to be of service.
Right.
Because again, when you're playing in a band, what are you doing? You are serving. If you're an aware and empathetic musician, you're going to be serving those around you and making their life as easy as you can make their life.
Absolutely.
That's what makes a great band.
Yeah, and identifying as a musician versus as a drummer or a guitar player is a more clear and broader big, it's the big picture. And it's the minutia as well, because that's where it's about the intention and everything that you live, that you preach, that you teach your daughter, and that you follow yourself. Exactly. Yes. I want to take a little aside, and that before we get back to your public speaking and a couple of these quotes that I have of you that really beautifully define you. But I was looking at your credits in preparation for our conversation, and I noticed something really interesting, and it so aligns with everything that you've been saying so far about not just your curiosity, but your willingness to go learn. You went and got an acting coach, a public speaking coach, a storytelling coach. You learned engineering. You are very open to bettering yourself, to broadening your skill set. And here's what I found really interesting. And I see a lot of credits on this show that are very impressive, but I saw going back to 1972, you have a couple of credits, 1972, 73. One was working with an artist called Cat Spina playing guitar. Then with Wolfpack, drums and a group member. With Barry Goldberg.
No. Those are wrong. You got that from Wiki, and that's all jacked up.
Got it. Okay. So, so you weren't...
1972, I was 11. So no.
Okay, I was very impressed.
But I did play guitar.
Okay.
So yeah.
In 1988, I see that there was a technician credit with the Pandoras. Is that accurate or no?
That's not accurate either.
So
that's all the wiki silliness that I haven't been able to correct because I can't get into correct it. I was just meeting with a guy last night because I just signed with a new speaker manager, and he said, "You got to clean up that wiki," because I don't even look at it. I haven't looked at it in years.
This was actually
I'm
IMDb.
Sorry about that.
No apologies necessary.
Because you probably got the wrong Mark Schulman, because there are other Mark Schulmans.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from that, then we'll get to the really juicy stuff. So these are with your public speaking, and I got these from your website, but these are basically shorter versions of some of the testimonials about you. And there's certain words that really just hold some weight for me that I want to talk about. But these also capture you beautifully. Here's one. You captured their hearts, motivated and inspired, but even more, you honored them by your willingness to participate. Here's another one. Okay, so who has more legit cred on how to conquer life's stage fright than the dude who's performed in front of 1 billion people worldwide? When every gig feels like an audition, only Mark Schulman equips you to harness the best of what's in here to bring your absolute unbridled best to everyone and everything out there. Third one, your message was straightforward, but one thing that we tend to forget from time to time, attitude is everything. His energy is infectious and his information valuable. He really makes each person in the audience feel like he's talking to them individually. I have one more. He was literally amazing, hands down the best keynote speaker we ever had. On top of it all, he's just a great guy. He spent the entire day and night with us. Thanks again for going above and beyond to ensure a successful event. So here, I'm sharing these with you, but also with people who are in our audience so they get a better idea of what you bring to the table every time you show up, whether you are playing drums, whether you're speaking, whether you're engineering, whether we're just having a conversation. Here's some takeaway phrases from these words that are used to describe you. And I wanted just you to weigh in on these. The takeaway for me is you honored them. Harness the best of what's in here. Bring your absolute unbridled best to everyone and everything. Attitude is everything. His energy is infectious and his information valuable. A great guy, which by the way is often underrated. We get a lot of work being a good hang, certainly for touring. You and I both know that.
Oh my gosh, if you're in a tour bus with 14 people for 15 months, you darn well need to be the best hang you could possibly be, again, to make it easier for them. The people that try to make it easy for everybody else and are cordial and really paying attention. And when I was younger, I didn't. When I was younger, I was a little sloppier. When the phones first came out, I remember I was talking too loud. I needed to learn. A lot of this stuff didn't come naturally to me. But I developed an awareness to then make it about everybody else and be of service to everybody else. And then I started becoming hyper aware of how I was affecting other people.
Right.
And if you want me to address some of the things that you said, before I go on stage, and I was just telling somebody this last night, when I do my little mantra, my little prayer, whatever you call it, every single thing I say is about them. Not about me. I say, I'm just calling in the universe, I'm calling in the light that all of the communication that I have is going to inspire these people to exceed their expectations, to inspire them to take action, to give them information they didn't expect to get them so excited, to make them feel better about themselves, to make them feel empowered. And the only thing I ask of myself is that I remember everything I was going to say and I do it gracefully so it can be more effective for them. So if that's the way I think, so if an audience feels honored, it is because I do honor them. It's because I'm not walking out there going, hey man, what's going on? I'm going to tell you about like my latest rock and roll story with this gal that I hung out with one night, It ain't about that.
Right.
It's about what can I do for you? And I just go right out there and I tell them, I go, I am here to celebrate you, and nobody better to celebrate you than someone like me, because I will be your own personal rock star at your service. That's how I set it up. So right off the bat, they're going, whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
Not what they're used to hearing at a corporate seminar.
People don't expect that.
No.
Well, they don't expect someone like me, who dresses even more rock and roll than this when I come out, to tell them that I am theirs. And I am there literally to honor them. I am there to be of service to them, and it's all about them. I want to address something else that you said. You mentioned something about, I felt like he was talking just to me. One of the things I learned from the great speaking coach, Patricia Fripp, who, yes, is Robert Fripp's sister, by the way, who has been on the road selling merchandise for them. She's an extraordinary lady. She's actually gotten me speaking gigs. But, she watched one of my videos. She said, you're pacing, you're going back and forth. You're not stopping to look into their eyes. I said, duh. Of course.
It's the obvious.
And that's when I developed the philosophy, though. And this has helped so many people that I have coached that have had this fear of being in front of a lot of people. I said, hang on a second. I said, when you're watching somebody, you're watching a movie on stage, you're watching an artist on stage, you're having a one-on-one relationship with them. So how about if you were to turn those tables? How about if you were just to look at, there's one person, and then there's another one person, and then there's another one person. So now I scan the stage and I look in the eyes of her, then him, then him, then her. Because what I'm doing, and I never say you all or everybody, I say you. So everybody can feel like they are having a personal relationship with me because they are. Mm-hmm. Because when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to them. I'm not talking to a bunch of thems. And 10,000, 20,000 years ago, if you had a bunch of eyes on you, you should have been scared to death because that meant that you had like saber-toothed tigers that were trying to kill you. Mm-hmm. Now it's not that way.
Right.
First of all, one of the great fears in life is public speaking. So they are so happy that it's me up there and not them to begin with.
That's true.
But when I look at them, I am looking at them. I'm telling you a story. And that makes a very, very big difference. And it's a great approach for anybody that's giving a presentation, giving a pitch, or just being on stage as a musician. Because so many of us do this and we just forget. It's like, oh, stop. Look. I noticed that's what Pink does. She's looking at people individually. She will lie down on the stage and sign autographs and take photos and act like she's your friend, like she's there for you, because she is. That's what makes her such an anomaly and so different as a performer is her level of commitment, even though she's playing in front of a stadium of people. Now they're doing a stadium tour. She really does what she can do to look into the eyes of every single person, to acknowledge the person up there. Look at you. How old are you? That's what creates magic. Mm-hmm. That's what makes you, as a performer, the next level. And that's the reason why, one of the reasons why, among other things, content and my energy, which is crazy on stage. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the reasons why I get hired. Right. And also, I tell my clients, because I told you I'm about being of service, I actually say, the moment I get off that plane till the moment I get back on the plane, I'm yours.
Right.
What do you need me for? You want me to sit with the executives and have drinks? I love my tequila. I ain't twisting my arm. You want me to go to your event with all of the attendees to get to know them beforehand, get to know them afterwards? You want me to sit in with a local band? I always do a meet and greet. If there's my meet and greets sometimes take 2.5 times the length of my speech because you have people lined up on the side of the stage to get on stage because they could take photos with me behind the drums. And it's a very personal experience. It solidifies our relationship. It cements the content because they know, oh, this guy's walking the walk. This guy ain't full of shit. He's the real deal. Mm-hmm. He does what he says. And that's my belief. Because I'm already a bit of a pain in the butt because I need drums and I need sound checks and I need more than the average speaker.
Sure.
I want the experience of me to be the best experience they've ever had with any speaker. I want them to walk away going, oh my gosh, it was so easy. He was the antithesis of what I feared he might be. And that's my goal.
And then I know I've done my job. You present a multimedia event experience.
Oh yeah,
it's not just a slideshow.
I call it a rock show disguised as a keynote.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which makes sense because that's your wheelhouse. You're being really truly authentic to yourself.
Yeah,
and sharing your story and everything that you've learned from all of these amazing artists who you've had
oh my gosh, I've
the
studied
opportunity
them.
and the joy to work with. Yes.
And I tell their stories.
Right.
I use them as the heroes that I can then attach content that I can relate back to the audience.
Right.
If I tell the story about when Cher, the third show of the very first farewell tour, when she was up on her platform 40 feet above the stage, and we were in Cleveland, and the air conditioner was overactive and slammed her up against the truss, and the very metal safety harness that was supposed to keep her on the platform loosened up, threw her into the truss, and she got stranded, dangling from the truss when the platform came down. And by the time I realized what was happening, because I was obstructed because I was so far under it, all I could see was little dangling Cher feet. It sounds kind of cute, but it was freaking scary as hell.
Terrifying.
And they realized the only way that she could get herself down, the fastest, most efficient way, is to bring that platform back up, and she would need to unhook herself. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this stuff happens. And when Pink, was in the front of the stage, and she lifted her arm to cue the computer operator, and normally there are two dancers that clip her in with two carabiner clips before she does that, what we call the 360, where she gets up and suspends. But she wasn't clipped in, and she didn't know because the carabiner clip was inadvertently turned upside down, but she couldn't hear. And at that point, it was a brand new bit, so we didn't have fail safes. So the carabiner clip wasn't clipped in. She lifted her arm, and then all of a sudden, the computer operator just fires up, and there was a 2-second kill switch. So she got dragged across the stage, got pulled into the 6-foot drop into the whatchamacallit, the orchestra pit, and then pulled all the way up against the metal side railing where I couldn't see her. And it happened that fast. And my heart stopped. I literally thought she was dead. And then the dancer, who was hanging on the other side of the carabiner clip, got thrown into the audience, and luckily she was caught by some big bloke.
Whoa!
And then to make a long story really, really short, Pink's husband Kerry comes running across the stage, jumps into the pit. All the techs jump into the pit to help her. Carrie's the one that helps her. She wants to walk back to the stage. Carrie helps her walk back to the stage. She gets back on the stage, and her leg, it looks like she broke her leg. She's leaning on Carrie, and the first thing she does is apologize to the audience. I understand you were expecting a full, complete show. I'm just too injured to play the last song, but listen, I'm willing to give everybody their money back. And by that point, they brought a stretcher on the stage. They hauled her off the stretcher. And the audience was just louder than I could even imagine. Right. Then I looked in the eyes of the audience, and many audience members had tears in their eyes. I had tears in my eyes. We had this collective realization. That was the moment that we thought we lost Pink forever.
Right. Your friend and your boss and your peer.
Yes.
Your bandmate.
That was the moment where the phrase you talked about that I realized we know we cannot control what happens to us, but it's the grace with which we recover from challenges, from disruption, from life-threatening situations. That's what determines the future of our relationships with our audience, with our customers, with our clients. That's what determines the future of our lives. So the premise of my speech, it's all based on attitude. Because so much of the time we know we cannot control what happens to us, but at any point in time, you have the power to change, control, or shift your attitude about what is happening to you. And all it takes is a decision to choose an attitude that serves you. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds really simple, but listen, we're all action takers. Every single time you take an action, it's based on a decision you've made to take an action. When you truly make a decision, you're cutting off all other possibilities. So that gives you power. And your attitude is your point of view. It's where you're looking from. It's your vantage point or your disadvantage point, depending upon the attitude that you have the power to choose. But your attitude is just the foundation for a formula that I live by that has been like literally the mantra of my life. And that's what my new book is about. It's called The Attitude Formula. Right. So check this out. Your attitude is what drives your behavior.
Yes.
Now think about the power power and the implication in that. And one attitude can drive many behaviors, and your behavior is what determines the consequences or outcomes of your life. And one behavior can drive many consequences. So it's A times B equals C. Attitude times behavior equals consequence. So by shifting your attitude, you are literally changing the outcomes of your life. And then what I do is I tell all these stories and I demonstrate, I talk about very, very specific attitudes that you're going to need to come to one of my speeches to hear the rest of the attitudes. And you can read the book that's going to come out this year. But the book also features interviews with everybody from Howie Mandel to Judd Apatow to Grant Cardone to Martina Navratilova to the late, great Tony Hsieh, CEO of Zappos, about their experiences with attitude and even what to look out for in the interview ahead of time. And of course, I interviewed a bunch of drummers as well, a bunch of my drumming buddies. But attitude really is everything because your attitude is your foundation. Your attitude is what drives who you are being, what you are, who you are to others. It is so absolutely critical. So to take that for granted is a foolish mistake, and it has changed my life forever because I know, and it was created by Dr. Jim, the man that co-wrote the book with me, and I'm just the messenger. I just give some very engaging and fun stories and play drums and, make it into a show, but with a lot of usable content, with some really great attitude shifts.
Oh, absolutely. And I would take the word just out of that statement that you made. You're not just the presenter of it. You are the vehicle for the information, but you are also, you follow the code. I mean, this is something that you know to be true because you practice it daily. You begin.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one attitude shift because I feel like everybody deserves one attitude shift that is so simple, and I promise you, it'll change your life. It is so ridiculously simple. Instead of taking the viewpoint that I have to do something, switch it to a get to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because the moment you switch a have to a get to, you're reframing your mind, and it goes from feeling like a chore to a choice. And the experience becomes entirely different. Instead of I have to take my kids to school, I get to take my kids to school. Instead of I have to go to work and deal with that client, I get to go to work and deal with that client. Or one of my personal favorites, instead of I have to go to the gym, I get to go to the gym. That one little reframe, if you do that, do it for 24 hours. Do it for the rest of your life, but at least for 24 hours. When you catch yourself, reframe it and just see how that shifts your behavior and consequences and how that really literally redefines the experience for you. That's an example of one of the attitude shifts that I talk about, that it's so simple and so easy. So I want to give everybody at least something.
Thank you for that. And my experience right now, my very visceral experience in hearing you say those words, which I've heard you say before, but having you look me in the eye and saying those words to me, energetically it shifts me because I'm thinking, what does it feel like when I say I have to fill in the blank? That is exhausting. That tires me. That wears me out. When I say I get exhilarated by that. Just in listening to that and imagining, not even saying it out loud yet. So those are beautiful words. And like you said, a very simple shift and not a difficult thing to practice, but a game changer. Absolutely.
Yeah, so easy. Look, the very least, you just have more fun with the experience. And let's face it, man, we are rock and rollers. We got in this business to have fun.
Right.
So imagine if you could have a little bit more fun with everything you do in your life.
With everything.
How that would build up and how that would enhance your life forever on a logarithmic basis.
Mm-hmm. Pink refers to you often in her shows as Disneyland, her loving nickname for you. And I want to talk about a word that comes up often in this show and which is important to you, joy. Let's talk about joy for a moment.
Well, joy is an attitude.
Okay.
Joy is a decision. And the best way All right, I'm going to teach everybody one more thing because I created for myself, which is a way to create an immediate attitude shift. It's going to take about 45 seconds. It's so simple. So you want to choose an attitude that you want to create, and you can change the word attitude for mindset or point of view. And examples of attitudes are courage, confidence, love, gratitude, joy. Let's take joy since you're talking about joy as an example. So what I do is I simply recall a time, recall an event where I was joyful. Mm-hmm. And we're going to attach physiology to it because the physiology sets it into your body. And when I recall that joyful time, I also want to attach as many senses as I can to make it even more real and to make it present time. But the very first thing I want to do is I want to prepare my brain like something great is about to happen. And the easiest way I found is to simply count backwards by 5 like a rocket launch. So here's an example. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I close my eyes tightly. I clench my fist. I'm tightening my core as tightly as I can. And now I'm recalling a time when I was joyful, involving as many senses as I can. And you can't help but smile, of course. Mm-hmm. And when you smile, you're activating hundreds of muscles in your face that send a signal to your body to relax, that send endorphins to your brain. So I was just recalling a time we were on vacation. My daughter is now 13. She was probably 12 at the time. We were in Puerto Vallarta. We decided we wanted to sneak into the pool after hours. So I just recall that time. Right now, I'm sneaking into the pool. It's a little chilly. I could feel the goosebumps on my skin, and I could smell the chlorine. I'm breathing in that scent. I'm imagining the smell of chlorine, and of course, my daughter is just laughing and splashing, and I'm hearing the echoes of all the sounds off the water. And now my daughter's carrying me underwater like you do because she's 11 and I weigh 155 pounds. And now I have all of that joy inside of me because your brain doesn't time bind emotions. So if you are committed and you actually involve all those senses, I feel that joy right now. And that can last me. And what I will usually do is I will usually do 3 or 4 of those attitude shifts using joy. 3 or 4 different examples. It takes me less than a minute to do until I have what I call a huge shift, eaten grin on my face. Mm-hmm. And the joy will then last for hours, sometimes the entire day. And if I'm having a challenging day, I might do it 20, 30 times because it's that fast. Because I know that my attitude is critical. My attitude is my foundation. If my attitude is off, then everything about my being, who I am, what I say, what I do, the decisions I make are off. So I need my attitude to be on point. That's how you have success in your life, when your attitude is on point. So those are more examples. You said joy. That's how I use joy as an example of how to create an immediate attitude shift that can sustain because it's producing endorphins in your brain. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Beautiful examples. Thanks for sharing those. It's really generous and gracious of you. And it's also, it just feels good to hear those words because like these tips that you're giving are not difficult to do. But sometimes the obvious just needs to be pointed out to you.
So obvious.
And life becomes
so easy.
Yeah, more effortless.
Yes.
You quote your daughter in your seminars and you just brought her up now. What have you strived to teach her as her father? And also, what has she taught you?
Oh my gosh. She's taught me what pure joy is. Because when she gets in that zone of just communicating and total stream of consciousness and freedom, it's just pure joy and innocence. And I love that. Yeah. And what I teach my daughter is more by example than anything else, because she laughs at me. She can memorize the whole intro of my speech. She's got memorized, and she calls me too positive. I mean, she's 13 years old. Let's face it. She's an adolescent. She's an amazing kid, though. She's got such an amazing spirit, and she's so smart. And I just get so much joy by the energy that she emits when she has that freedom to simply express, because so many of us become more and more inhibited to express when we get older. And how she walks around talking to herself, and she's an actor, right? And she is now writing. So she's actually told me she will go over scenes that she's just watched on TV and create additions or different endings and go over dialogue and shift the dialogue. It's just so much freedom. If you're an adult and somebody does that, they think you're crazy. If you're a kid and you're doing that, you're creative.
Right.
So she's just so darn creative. And I just try to teach her by example and just by joyfully being present and really communicating. Like when we communicate, the one great thing that me and her mama just decided early on is like, we're going to talk to her like she's on our level. Yeah. We never talk down. So she knows that we respect her as much as we respect ourselves. And even when she was 2 years old, we were still talking to her because she could talk and say full sentences too. As she's grown, she realizes that we respect her opinion. We listen to her opinion. We're her parents, and we're actually pretty darn strict sometimes. Mm-hmm. More strict than you would expect us to be as like rock and roll parents. Mm-hmm. But because of that, she respects the fact that we're strict when we are, because she knows that we truly listen to her and truly care about her. And probably the biggest thing is she knows we adore her. Like she could feel that unconditional love all the time because it's always there. Because, she never does anything that horrible that she knows it's going to infuriate us. And if there's something that I question, I just talk to her. What was that about? Let's talk about that. What do you mean? Like, is there a trouble? Is there a problem? It's like, let's talk about this. And we talk about everything. And I want to know what music she likes. I want to know why she likes it. Why do you like this? What's compelling about this verse? Why do you like this lyric? And we talk about lyrics, and she goes, I want to play this. I want to see what you think. And then she's like, I'm nervous. I don't think you're going to like it. I said, well, wait a minute. Why would you start by saying I'm not going to like it? Because highly likely I am going to like it, because you and I actually have a lot of the same music tastes when it comes to, because she likes a lot of the new female artists, but she really tends to pick real high quality stuff with some really sophisticated lyrics, because she writes amazing poetry, and now she's starting to write screenplays, so she understands the difference. Mm-hmm. So if it's inane or dumb or really not worthy of even having been written, she knows it. So she's my pal. She's like my best friend,
Yet you still are not, you're fully capable and understand the value of giving her boundaries and guidelines.
Absolutely. Boundaries are really, really critical. Mm-hmm. And as I said, she respects the boundaries because she knows that we respect her. And she knows that all the reasons why we set boundaries are because we believe we're doing the best we can for her. Right. And I've actually, I can't even tell you how many times I've said this exact sentence. I'd say, what kind of parent would I be if I said yes to you doing this right now? Mm-hmm. I mean, really, think about it. Who would I be? Like, what would you think of me?
It's a great question.
Don't be cheeky. It's a great question, though, because you kind of get the kid to like look at things from your perspective. They go, oh, that makes sense that you're saying no, or that you're putting a restriction, because it could potentially be dangerous, or it could potentially be whatever we may potentially think it is. Whether she agrees or not, at least she understands that we have a precedent for doing it, and because we really truly love her, and we're never out to harm her or get at her or make fun of her or do something that is going to, demean her or make her feel small. We can all talk, and we joke around, and the kid's got the most amazing sense of humor as a result, because she's been hanging out on the road. She's been on over 300 flights, been on the road a gazillion times. Mm-hmm. The girl can hang. She knows how to hang, and she loves hanging with adults. She, half the time when we have, people, adults together, she'd rather hang with the adults. And she just turned 13. But she's like, adults are just more interesting. Her best friend is 16, put it that way. She's going to her best friend's birthday party tomorrow. She's turning 16 today, as a matter of fact, right?
Oh, that's fantastic. You said something that I find really interesting. It's just an observation on you is, you're talking about a child when they are free in their expression or their creativity, it's encouraged, or it's not frowned upon in any way. As you become an adult, and if you do that, it's a little bit more of an oddity, or perhaps discouraged. But you've gone the opposite way. The older that you've gotten, with every year, you become more open. You become more curious. You become more. It seems like you were doing a Benjamin Button approach to life, and really freeing yourself and liberating yourself from restrictions in attitude and creativity, in life choices, in everything, even when things are tough.
Yeah.
Which everybody experiences. You certainly have, I have, and anybody who's listening to this conversation has and will continue to. But there's a real beauty to what you're saying, because I'm just watching you just grow as this human being and become freer and more open and more willing to try, not even try, to just embrace positivity.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for noticing that, because it really is a conscious decision.
Yes, it's a choice.
It's comes down to recognizing possibility.
Yes.
What's possible? One of my phrases, the phrase I have on my internet, just about the only cool phrase I've ever come up with, is dream your life and live your dreams. So you imagine it. If you can imagine it. Say that again, please,
for the people in the back of the house. One more time.
Dream your life and live your dreams. In other words, dream it. Allow yourself to really dream. Allow yourself to really pay attention. I love you. It's my daughter. She's been sitting in the bedroom. She'll be able to repeat everything I said verbatim, by the way.
Fantastic.
But it's really true. You imagine what's possible.
Right.
Because for so many of us, we think, oh, I can't possibly do that, or I can't. The only limitation you have is you. Because, yeah, you do need to work. There's real limitations. You do need to work a job. You need to take care of your family. But in your spare time, you could be writing a novel. You could be writing a music. You could be learning a new instrument. You could be creating something that brings you so much joy. So that's what I did. I was on the frickin' road. So I wrote a book. I was doing drum clinics. I started devising how I would started writing content about how I could move what I'm doing into the corporate world, because I just started recognizing possibility. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, Shelley Varela, is a firefighter, the first female firefighter in Toronto. And she has this speaking program called Hacking Possibility. I love that name, because that's what you're doing. You're just hacking into the possibility of what can be. Mm-hmm. And there was nobody that told me, you can't do that. So
there wasn't growing up. There was nobody who told you couldn't.
Well, my parents didn't even really, because my parents wanted me to be the doctor, accountant, lawyer, and right. My mother said get a degree to fall back on, but they never said no.
Got it.
I mean, I give my parents so much love and credit for being college professors whose bedroom was next to mine with the drums in it. So at 9 years old, they got me drums, and they're trying to correct papers in the den that's on the other side of that room, and I'm just playing drums all day, because they knew they could feel my passion.
Yeah,
they could feel, and above and beyond. One of the things I talk about in my speech is that, passion is how we do it. There are those days where it's like what you do when you're just like out of the groove and you're just not really communicating well, you're not having enough fun. And there are the days, it's how you do it, man. You got groove, you got panache, you got finesse, you got attention and intention. You're having more fun, you're communicating better, and I bet money, you're performing at a higher level. Mm-hmm. Now, if we take that even one step farther, because what happens is, the passion is not permanent. The passion can wane. It can go away completely because it's transient. But there's an expansion of passion that can bring it back, and that's purpose. And the purpose is the why you do it. What's the intrinsic motivation for doing what you do? For what gets you up in the morning? And I tell people that I made a decision when I was sitting at the drum set, after I was actually hanging out with Billy Idol in my studio writing a song together, I decided that every single time I sit down at that drum set, that every single note I play matters. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Where I hit the drum, how I hit the drum, the dynamic levels, the space between the notes. What I don't play is as important as what I do play, just like what I don't say, think, and do is as important as what I do say, think, and do. Because it finally occurred to me that if I play every single note like it matters, I'm attaching a sense of purpose to every note, word, thought, action. The moment I attach a sense of purpose to every note, word, thought, and action, guess what? I become more passionate. Mm-hmm. So the passion comes back, and the passion feeds the purpose, and the purpose feeds the passion. My buddy Dom Famularo calls it a cycle of empowerment. But I laughed at my audience and said, how the hell else do you think I've been able to play? So what? I'm just a rock star over 800 times. And have the 800th time be just as purposeful and passionate as the first time. It's because every single note matters.
Yeah.
And so I'm always playing every note with purpose. So therefore, I'm interested. So therefore, I stay passionate. And truly, that's my job. Mm-hmm. That's why I get hired. Why the hell else have people hire me on the tour? I'm not the greatest drummer on the planet. There are guys that can play chops circles around me. But the thing is that I approach it. It's my approach.
Right.
And what's a synonym for approach? Attitude.
Yeah.
All comes back to attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! That's it's priceless, literally priceless. I want people to know, before I get to my closing questions and your final thoughts, is people can find your books, your music, your public speaking availability, and also excerpts from some of your presentations at your website, markschulman.com. They can also find you.
Make sure you spell it properly, SCHULMAN.
Thank you. And
you're welcome.
And also your Instagram at Marky Planet, MarkyPlanet. So I encourage everybody.
And that's the same. It's also at Marky Planet for my Twitter as well.
Yes, perfect. And I encourage everybody to go read the book, go follow Mark, go just dive into more of what we've been talking about for this past hour. To continue, I'm going to continue to go back to your work and your words for continued inspiration and cheerleading on how to have a great life, because it really is exhilarating to talk with you. I want to ask the final three questions.
Thank you, by the way.
You're so welcome.
I'm also a man of extraordinary gratitude, and that's the reason why Pink called me Disneyland.
Yeah,
because of my constant gratitude for everything. And I do a whole segment on the power of gratitude as an attitude shift in my speech, because gratitude is vastly more powerful than most people give it credit for.
It's so timely to hear you say that, because I have a new album out, and the current single that's streaming is called Gratitude and Attitude. Two words that are very important to me as well.
Yeah, man.
And I think those words,
serendipity, baby.
It is, but those words certainly define me. They define you as well. You have an abundance of both, which is a beautiful combination, Mark.
Oh, thanks, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah. My first of the closing questions that I ask all my guests is, since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you both personally and professionally?
Making it professionally means that you are in a position where you are truly enjoying what you do, and you are able to create enough revenue to sustain yourself and your family as a result of doing something that you truly enjoy, something that you get to do every day. So that's a good definition of professional success. Making it personally is embracing and appreciating and bringing joy into your life and consciously creating what it is that you want to create in your life in terms of attitude, mindset, and being of service to others and the joy that you can then bring to others and the joy that you get back, because you get the same endorphin rush from giving gratitude as you do from receiving gratitude, or giving joy as you do from receiving joy. I get so much more joy out of giving gifts on the holiday season than I do receiving them. So that's what making it is. Making it is allow you to be more healthy, to have a healthy body, a healthy mind, a healthy spirit, and to take the time for yourself. And probably most importantly, to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you love yourself, you are a lot more capable of truly loving others. And that's the key. How much love can you put out? How much service can it create? That's making it.
Yeah. I want to share something personal right now before I hit the next question, and it'll be brief, but it's timely because I just got an email from a family member, an older cousin who's in the last stage of her life right now, and she wanted to reach out to give me an update. And she signed the email, take good care of yourself and love yourself first. And I thought that was really beautiful. You know,
well, here's the thing.
Yes.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first.
Right.
You need to love yourself first, because the breadth and depth of which you love yourself is your reflection of who you can be for others in the world.
Absolutely. My second question is, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Understanding that I have the power to shift my attitude and choose my attitude, which is then going to literally determine the outcomes of my life. Mm-hmm. The decisions that I've made and the people that I surround myself with. And also, of course, the way I treat my body, which mm-hmm. is my vessel for communication in this lifetime. That's 4. Sorry.
Thank you for the bonus round. My final question, and then I'll give you closing thoughts before we say goodbye. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
To relax, to love myself more, to pay a lot more attention to being of service to other people, and to pay greater attention to opportunities. That's some pretty well-rounded stuff, I think.
It's great. Absolutely. Beautiful words to close with. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share with our audience?
Man, I think I've said it all. My voice is shot. I've given you kind of the greatest hits version. I'm always open to communicating with people. So if you really want to communicate with me, just email me at mark@markschulman.com. It goes right to me. There's no filter. I have people looking at some of my, monitoring some of my emails. That one goes right to me. So I'm happy to communicate with you if you want to communicate with me.
Thank you for extending that invitation to our audience. And the other thing is, thanks for the masterclass today. It's, for being so generous with your tips.
Well, thank you for the absolutely extraordinary questions. And just your energy is so lovely and so kind and so inviting. It makes it so easy to communicate. If there were more people like you, then I think a lot of other people would be less inhibited to communicate their true selves. So thank you for being you. And thank you for creating this opportunity so other people can learn, and creating this opportunity so people like me can share my experience with others. Because everybody's got an amazing story to tell, and everybody can teach everybody else. I'm just fortunate enough to have a platform to be able to do it. So I do.
Likewise. Yeah. And back at you, my friend. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. We really appreciate your time. I want to encourage you to stay safe and stay inspired. And we will see you all next week. Mark Schulman, what a joy to see you. Thank you,
Terry. You are, what a fantastic spirit and being you are. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Take good care.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.